again to another Extreme Business Set Mind series. I mean, we've had some series, that's for sure, Lee. Our YouTube is frantically growing. I mean, everybody, the feedback we have in viewers, thank you so much. We value your likes, we value your subscribing to the channel, and we value you coming and commenting. You know, there's nothing nicer than hearing that. You know, this series is opening up your mind, is opening up your heart, and opening up, above all, everything in life, what you deserve to have, which is being the best version of yourselves. And this series topic, Lee, is like it's so apt to our off-camera conversation we had, and here it is. I'm going to put it in two ways. So when I started you, our viewers, you have to share in life to have a share of life. You have to share in life to have a share of life. Now, think of the depth of that, viewers, but also people use the word pay it forward, pay it forward, pay it forward. But I think that word is too kind of almost, I'm going to say kind of, it's too industrial. But when we think about sharing life, we also got to think about the people that shared in life with us to be who we are, but also how we authentically share in life, and how many people share in life but do it with a kind of a hint of, I expect a return from this, and I'll realize you're no longer sharing, you're controlling. Let's start on that, Lee. Where are we with this thing? Take a good sip, because here's the thing. What I've learned also, Lee, is when you kick off, there are so many ways you come in from. It takes us a couple of minutes to get kind of settled. It's fantastic, but we have to share in life to have a share of life.
And have the default conversation. I know the default conversation. I know what, let's say, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the word reciprocity. And obviously, it can be utilized as a business tool or a relationship tool. But in my world, that wouldn't be authentic. So I'm only saying this to Paul. So Paul has this concept of me and the future. And then because of that now, if Paul's genuine, authentic, sincere, and reciprocates, then it's like a win-win. Yeah. But if I've led that conversation, then I've controlled that conversation, regardless of if I'm aware sort of how Paul's put it together, and Paul's put it together nice and wholesomely in him, then it looks like Paul, well, this is brilliantly. Yeah, but if I've done that deliberately, so if I've shared just to get ka-ching, then it's not authentic, because it's not who I am. If it's who I am, then it's brilliant. So now it's different when we get to like agreements in business, because it's a bit like a boundary, like us being neighbours. That's your land, that's mine. And if I take that into a story, I years ago had a neighbour, and he owned a piece of land, and there was markers there between his boundary and mine. I'm going back a lot of years, and there was like an old wall there, but he put the fence up, and then he started building like this woodshed. And I went past one day and I said, "Oh, Francois," I said, "you do know." Now I didn't go, "What are you doing? What have you done?" Whatever. I didn't go into that, because like I didn't want conflict. At the same time, I can't let it go, because in reality, he just stolen some of my land.
Yeah.
So I said, "You do know that the fence is in the wrong place?" He said, "How do you mean?" I said, "Well, at that end of the land," I said, "the fence is probably 20 feet over." I said, "Well, it should be 20 feet back." I said, "At this end, it's about 80 feet over." I said, "It should be 80 feet back. And this is by the length of probably about 500 feet. So a fair bit of chunk of land gone." "Well, I don't think so." I said, "Well, that's fine." I said, "I appreciate you didn't put the fence up deliberately and try to steal my land." I said, "But in reality, you took some of my land." So, and he went into defense. I said, "I'm not attacking." I said, "I'm just explaining." I said, well, he said, "Well, I think this and I think." I said, "Well, brilliant." I said, "That's why there's maps." I said, how about, I said, I get a chap in, and I said, he can have a measure up and see. And anyway, long story short, we got the chap in, and because he knew I knew the chap, yeah, he assumed that now I'd turn this chap into sort of some sort of conspiracy architect, yeah. So, well, I'm not happy. I don't like. How long have you known him? I said, I've known him about 20 or 30 years. I said, but I haven't asked him to say anything that he shouldn't say. He's interpreting the maps. He's not being loyal to me. I said, if you knew the guy, I said, there's no way he would say what I wanted said if it was going to take anything away from you. Because this is where, like, it's part of, like, when we give something, we're being real, whether it's our opinion, yeah. And there's another level to this. But anyway, long story short, so I said to him, and this is at the time, just as GPS was coming out. Yeah. So I said to him, well, there's another guy I've heard of. I said, he has GPS. I said, they come in and bang these stakes in the ground with little metal pins in. I said, and then they get a GPS location from the satellite. I said, they can pinpoint it down to 10 mil. I said, how about him? So he said, well, yeah, who's going to pay for it? I said, well, I'm paying for this guy. So he said, so I've got to pay for the other guy. I said, no, I didn't say that. I said, how about we do it this way? I'll get the other guy in. If the other guy says you're right, then I pay. If he comes in and says, I'm right, yeah, I said, you pay. I said, if neither of us are right, we pay 50-50. So if it's not where you say and it's not where I say and it's somewhere in between, it's 50-50. He said, well, that sounds fair. Do you know this guy? I said, no, I know of him. So anyway, this guy comes, it's about 18 months later, and exactly where I said it was, give or take 2 inches, was exactly where it was. So he ended up paying. But how do we get clarity in our life? How do we, and this is the problem sometimes, when we give, it's not that we're giving or sharing, it's that we're not getting already. So what are we giving or sharing or not giving or sharing that's stopping what we should have?
Wow, let's go that again. That's
Well, yeah, I know, because this is the thing. If we're not getting what we want in our life already, and if sharing is caring and sharing is sort of developing a community or having people to support us and that we give and they give, and it's all like in the family sector, let's say it's in the family world and that works well. But then you get, so now I get it, you only done that because of this. No, because if you genuinely, authentically gave without expectation, without obligation, totally different worlds. If you're doing it for the benefit of the other human, whether that be in a family unit or in a business world. But what happens is sometimes it gets all muddied up in the water. Yeah. And wherever that person is where that person's is perspective. So where they're feeling, and sometimes people are not themselves, the reaction to the feelings that they perceive. They're triggers. Yeah. So, and also what you see sometimes isn't who they are. It's they're playing this actor role. So how can you, if you're dealing with what you think's an authentic human being, and they're showing up, they could be faking it so they make it, but that's the avatar they've given you, and that's who you think they are. And based on who you think they are, you determine what they will do and what they won't do, because that's the whole point of us having these 3 seconds or 30 seconds first impressions. Who is this person? Can I trust them? Friend or foe? That's the category we're in, friend or foe. So once we decide, well, yeah, they're all right. And then the person says, well, I'll do this for you, Leah, or I'll do that for you. And you go, oh, brilliant, thank you very much. Now, if we give too much, then they might think, well, why is he giving that? Because if the baseline in society is, I don't know, let's say you give 10%, yeah, and you're authentic. Let's say you're authentic, you're doing all the right things, but you give 10%. And that's the baseline. Like every average human being that's genuine, sincere, has got past a lot of their triggers and has some form of, I don't know, honor, integrity, and authenticity about themselves, and they give 10%. And that's the baseline. But then Paul comes along, Paul goes 100%. Yeah, that's like, oh, yeah, what's he after?
Mm.
So it depends, see, because if we're dealing with somebody like you and I can see, well, that's who Paul is. I've got enough cop on to realise, well, Paul ain't trying to use me, abuse me, or take from me. Paul's looking for a win-win, a collaborative union. Yeah, I get that. That's how I work. And because we're similar, we can find that space very quickly. But if I'm in defence mode and you're in give mode, and you're giving, and that's sending my alarm bells off, because if I'm used to people taking, or I'm used to people giving something like the Hansel and Gretel story, a few breadcrumbs, and I get led into this like cottage full of sweets and candy, but now I've been like sort of kidnapped, and which is what some people do. They drip feed you in. That's what I suppose a con person is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we get led into these relationships, or you'll hear so many different stories in relationships or in business where another human has took advantage of them. So how do you know where the boundaries are, and how do you know that the boundary's in the right place?
That's such a profound thing, because when I'm thinking about what you're saying there, which is now we have two shapes to what is like an authentic share in life and what is a selfish share in life. And when you go to networking, we can see this like a red flag to a bull if you know your networking skills. You see when someone is not sharing, they just actually looking to take behind what is a sharing illusion. And that effectively we could say is a big chunk of the SME world right now. And I want to say that I want to be positive with this, but if we measured it up and put into numbered facts, we could say big chunk of the SME world is a false illusion of sharing, and exactly.
And so is the relationship world, even in the relationship world, especially nowadays. Let's say, like, I don't know, let's say in the virtual dating world, for example. And bear in mind, we're not talking about the virtual dating world. Bear in mind, no experience in it. So I'm just looking from the outside in, But what I do know, even though I've never had an interaction in the virtual dating world, is that I know how to interact virtually, in business and in so many different ways. Not in the dating world. I've got no experience in the virtual dating world, nor do I want any. Not because it's negative. It's just I'm in a very happy relationship, want to stay in the relationship for the rest of my life. So I've got no intentions of learning the virtual dating world. But there's so much left out, you would imagine. There's no handshake, there's no touch, there's no kiss, there's no nothing. There's no sensory data. It's all what's going on in our imagination or our thoughts, and what's happening within the language. Now, if you're only dealing with language, and bear in mind, if it's typed, there's no syntax, there's no tonality with the typing. All there is punctuations and emojis. So it's very easy when you're just dealing with the written word to create that illusion that you are somebody you're not. Now, or you might be very good at expressing yourself in writing. And not only that, you've got time to process. So Paul sends me a message. I've got the message, and I haven't answered it straight away because I want to think about it. And what does he actually mean, right? Well, I think he means this and that. So I've got time to process what's been sent to me. I've got time to then think about my answer and send it back. We're in a conversation. The conversation isn't like that. So Paul might say something to me, and that might ruffle my feathers on the inside, and I might react slightly. And then Paul sees that reaction and might say, well, I didn't mean to. It looked like I ruffled your feathers there, Lee. That wasn't my intention. So Paul's aware of now that I could be triggered in certain ways. And I said, well, no, I wouldn't. Sort of, Paul. It was not you. It's what happened. Something happened. And then he might say, share. And I'm like, no, it's quite personal. Yeah, it won't go anywhere, Lee. Like, yeah, this is just you and I here. So I share, and then you go, all right, yeah, right. And that helps you know me, and I've been a bit vulnerable. So now the relationship starts to build. You might have a similar story, or you might know somebody that happened to my brother. Yeah, or that happened to my best mate. And if I hear you've got an emotional connection to your best mate, and I can hear in your tonality and syntax that you are actually sharing from a caring place, then what happens is we start to build a bond. Now, if Paul goes off telling everybody that story, or Lee goes off telling Paul's story, yeah, and it comes back to Paul, Paul might say, no, I shared it with you. It wasn't common currency to go out. It wasn't like a Windows shop display. I was sharing with you. I haven't shared that with anybody. And so, and that's where we feel we've been distrusted because, or let down, is when we share with somebody because we see that person cares, and that person then goes and shares because it becomes their conversational currency. They become a gossip, a town crier, and they start to share. They've got their, oh, I've got my story of the day, and they run off like they're the newscaster and start sharing your life.
Yeah.
So sharing is caring. It depends what we're sharing. Because sometimes we're only shared with a certain few. I mean, there's loads of people I speak to, and I probably know some of the people I work with better than anybody in this world. But they know it's never going to go any further. And they know that. And that comes back. So there's another part is like, because it's what can you share and how much should you care? Because sometimes we can care and we can share and we can actually be, even though doing all the right things, become the shackle or the obstacle in somebody's life. Because
So
if we're protecting them, unawares to them, and we're trying to look out for them because we care, sometimes we're taking the experiences out of their life that they need to be able to be the person that can share and care.
Let me jump in on that because that's massive. You know, when we think about we have to share in life to have a share of life. Now, what we realization here is that you have to also be accountable for the right purpose of sharing in life. Now, we could split this in many ways to say, okay, I'm going networking. I'm saying I can help you with this in my business. I can do this for you in my business, which effectively we could say is a form of sharing, but also is a form of asking. We could say then, I just won £1 million on the lottery. I'm going to give £40,000 to each of my sisters, which effectively breaks up their marriage. That's not sharing them because the moment they got enough money, you could say, I'm not staying with him anymore. I don't need him now. I'm out on my own. Children got no parents, both they gone off. So I always say that, you know, or we could say that we are sharing, helping someone saying, yeah, I can see you're going through a difficult time. I wouldn't put up with that either. That other person says, yeah, you're right. I'm going to leave that person without. There's so many versions of what a share is. They say that, you know, you have to give in life to have life. You know, but
and there's a good point there because sometimes the grass is always greener. So if Paul was more wholesome, I wouldn't be so triggered. Yeah, but is Paul actually triggering me, or is Paul triggering me, or is Paul medicating me, or is Paul putting up with my triggers because he loves me that much? Because there's a few varies. I'm always triggered every time Paul's opened his mouth. Yeah, but if you're the one being triggered and nobody else can hear the trigger, he does it deliberately. He knows what pushes my buttons. So it's a bit like you're going through life with bubble wrap, all wrapped up, and Paul's burst one of those little bubbles. I mean, who doesn't love to press bubble wrap? My kids do, yeah. And so you did it deliberately? No, I didn't, because I could see it and I asked. Yeah, because I care. Yeah, and you're trying to manipulate me. You're trying to. No, I'm not. What would happen if you actually took the bubble wrap off? Oh, I'd feel so vulnerable. Yeah, but how old are you now? 45? How long have you been walking around with bubble wrap on? What are you scared of? who he is scared of. The bogeyman sometimes is under the bed or in the cupboard, ain't everywhere in life. See, so yeah, sometimes you might need to put the bubble wrap on when you know the bogeyman's under the bed or in the cupboard. But the bogeyman doesn't walk around with you 24/7.
Yeah.
So if you've had certain experiences or trauma or drama in your life, yeah, proportion it for that section in your life. Now, what we can do, or Paul looks a little bit like the bogeyman. The bogeyman wears glasses like Paul, and instinctively, or what some might call subconsciously, what I call organically, we make these associations. And now I don't like Paul because Paul wears his glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is. You think, well, yeah, Paul needs to wear his glasses. Like, well, why does he have to wear them black ones? And we go through life like this. And bear in mind, this is happening around us all the time in a workplace, in a relationship. And I was with somebody the other day, and they'd had quite a up and down life and that. And I said, you do know you are now the parent you always wanted or needed when you were growing up. You've become the parent that you wanted. And the thing is that sometimes when things happen in our life, and nobody's there to fill them gaps or to share enough to give us the wisdom that we might need. And even if they gave us the wisdom at the time when we needed it the most, we probably wouldn't hear it. Yeah. Because we're so caught up in whether that's a business decision or a relationship or life decision. The art is to be able to, before you share, because empathy, I think empathy and sympathy can be the worst tools in the world. I think they cause so many problems in relationships, in business.
That's brilliant. That is a whole series in itself.
Well, especially with therapists. I think with therapists or counselors or anybody in that facilitation space, I think empathy and sympathy is one of the biggest problems that causes the biggest problems.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'll tell you why. You need empathy and sympathy to have rapport. Yeah. And to get a snapshot, a satellite view in whoever's life, whether you're coaching, mentoring, whether it's in business, whether it's in life coaching, whether it's in psychotherapy, NLP, hypnotherapy, whatever, you do need the rapport skills. Without that, you're working blind. However, you cannot be anchored or emotionally confined by the empathy of their experience, because if you do, you get in the wardrobe with the bogeyman and them. And you can't be in the wardrobe with the bogey. You can be there and you might find a life experience so they know you know. Well, your job's to get the bogeyman out from under the bed, out of the wardrobe, and bags packed, see you later, and for them to be totally, because happiness isn't the absence of sadness. So some people, when they have that pressure, so if you hear it like this, we talk about the baggage of life sometimes in general terminology. And when you're walking around carrying like carrier bags, for example, I went into Tesco's in the town here and went in one morning to do a weekly shop. Yeah, sometimes Ross does the shopping, sometimes I do. Yeah. And I went in, I had the time, and I'm walking around Tesco's with a trolley. Now, bear in mind, we got like 9 kids at home. So you can imagine, like, yeah, I wouldn't be as good at shopping as Ross. I'll be there to get some of that. Oh, that looks nice. I'll get some of that as well. And I got the trolley full, and I get to the checkout, and all that's open is the self-service. Now, I knew the manager at Tesco's and that, and the manager was walking past, and I said, how are you doing, Kenneth? He went, yeah. I said, you ain't got this correct, mate, have you? He said, how do you mean? I said, you got all the self-service checkouts open, nobody on the till. So he went, well, he said, I think we got. I said, I'm not moaning. I said, I'll just show you from my world. I said, I'm just going to share something with you. So you can hear it the wrong way or the right way. I said, like, heads or tails, it's up to you. I said, I'm right on the edge of the coin. I'm neither head or tail. I'm right on the edge of the coin. I said, if you look out in the car park I said, how many cars would you say is in the car park? He said, I don't know. And I can hear that edge. I said, no, you don't need for the edge. I said, you and I have never had any problems. I said, I'm just talking out loud. Just imagine we're talking about the weather. I said, how many cars would you say in the car park? He said, about 80. I said, yeah. I said, what other shops are open here? I said, Boots isn't open yet. The Euro shop isn't open. Mr. Banana Man, the vegetable bloke's just opened there. I said, now we can see how many people are in his shop. I said, so those cars in the car park, I said, now, I was here early. I said, there's about 40 cars more. I said, your shop was already open. So I said, some of those cars are staff for the shops and for this shop. I said, I don't know how many people you've got on this morning. I said, but with shelf stackers and whatever, I said, I've worked out, so just walking around the shop, about 23 staff you got. I said, how many staff you got this morning, including yourself? I said, 28. I said, fair enough. I said, so 28. I said, some of them, I said, there's a bike rack over there. I said, there's 8 bikes in the bike rack. He said, well, how do you know that? I said, I counted when I walked in. I said, being aware is being aware. I said, the point I'm trying to make to you is this. I said, when there's cars in the car park, I said, we're outside of town. I said, there's apartments around the place here. So I said, the self-service checkouts are for people that come with shopping bags and have to carry it home. I said, how many bags do you think they want to carry home? I said, and how far would they carry a bag? I said, at some point, I said, you've got Centra and you've got Super Value, 2 other shops. I said, so your target market's going to cross over. I said, now Super Value's right in the town. So a lot of people go to Super Value, even though Super Value's got car park, you see a lot of people coming out of them with bags. I said, they're self-service checkouts. I said, they've got it down to an art. I said, but they know they're dealing with a lot of foot traffic, not car traffic. Yours is slightly out of town, so you're going to be dealing more with more car traffic, which means you need the tills open as well as the self-service. I said, and it's very easy to see. I said, the car park's empty, it's self-service. If there's a lot of cars in the car park, you know how many staff is on. I said, you've only got to walk past Boots. I said, Boots only have 4 staff. I said, that's the pharmacies and everything. I said, on a Saturday, there's 6. I said, the €2 shop has 3 staff. Mr. Banana Man has himself and 1 other. So I said, and there's no other shops. I said, there's Mockabees down the end there. I said, but they're going with renovations. So I said, the builders might come in. I said, but they're going to come in for a pint of milk. I said, you need to know why they're in your shop. I said, and how many bags will somebody carry?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we take that back into life, yeah, is imagine we're checking out everything that happens to us every day.
Yeah.
When something happens to us, it's a bit like scanning it across one of those self-service tills. Yeah. Now, when we're scanning it ourselves, we're a lot more aware. And we go, what's this? So, and we got to look for the barcode to get it around the right way. And it goes ping, and we look at the screen. Did it go in? We're actually doing the checkout job. Now, when it's being checked out on a conveyor belt and you put it all on there, and the person checks it out at the other end, yeah, that's your subconscious doing that. So when it goes through at the end and they go, it'll be 146 quid, and you go, right, thank you, and then you put your card in and give them your cash. Subconscious has checked it all out. When you're at a self-service, you got the bags. How much can you take in your bags before you break, before you bend, before it stops you from sharing, before it stops you from caring, before you have a go at Paul?
Yeah.
What our job is supposed to be is to realise how much we can carry in one particular day. Now, if we're bumping into people that can't carry their own stuff and they're going, oh, look, Paul, you couldn't grab one of them bags for us. Well, I've got my own stuff to carry. Yeah, only be 5 minutes. We're just going down here, but I'm only down at the blue door there. And you're doing that for people caring and sharing every day, carrying. I mean, and on top of that, you've got your own stuff to carry. How much can you carry before you get burnout? So when we're sharing and caring, we've got the self-help, as in self-aware. Yeah, I'm only going to Tesco's for a pint of milk and a packet of biscuits. So my bag ain't got a lot in it. And I see my mate Paul, and I like Paul, and Paul's having a heavy day. And I say, well, give us one of them bags, mate. I'll carry it for you. I'll drop it round your house later. Is that right? Oh, if you could, Lee, it'd be great. Now I'm doing that just to help Paul. That's sharing and caring. If I'm doing it and I'm saying, oh, Paul, you couldn't, and I think, oh, this is Andy. I've got a packet of biscuits and a pint of milk. Oh, there's Paul there. Oh, brilliant. Where's the trolleys? And I fill up the trolley and I bump into Paul. Oh, hi, Paul. How you doing? Yeah, all right, Lee. How you doing? How's Debs? Yeah, she's good. How's Ross? Your kids? Oh, yeah, everything's going good. Oh, I'm so pleased I bumped into you, Paul. You couldn't do us a favour and carry a few bags over for me, could you? Now, some people are going through life like that. They're getting you to carry home their baggage.
Yeah.
And then they got no appreciation for it. And the reason they got no appreciation for it, because they think Paul's a soft touch and they want Paul to carry the load for them. And they don't want to give Paul nothing for it. Now, how we determine it, we can't always determine it at the checkout because some people are very clever. Couldn't just scan that through for me. And you end up paying for it as well. Oh, Paul, I've left my wallet at home. You couldn't put that through, could you? Yeah. And what do you say to that? You're a sharing, caring guy. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it's going to be on my card. Yeah, I ain't got my card with me, pal. You done this to me a month ago as well, mate. You're always doing this to me. At some point, we have to say, no, the boundary fence belongs here. And you say, I'd love to, John, when you pay me back for the other 10 items I scanned over the last year. So you begrudge me that. Now, if it was round the other way and I saw Paul at the supermarket and I said, oh, Paul, you couldn't do us a favour, mate. I know you owe me for a few bits. You look like you're doing well. You couldn't, I've got 10 items here. You owe me for 10 items. You couldn't just pay for these on your card for me, could you? So sometimes if they're a new person in your life, we might know how to check them out. So that's where networking comes in very well. I can say to Paul, do you know that Frank? Yeah, I know Frank. How long you known him for? Oh, I've known him for about 10 years. Oh, brilliant. How many times have you interacted with him in those 10 years? About once a year. At least you don't know him very well then. You just know him for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Have you done business with them? Who do you know that's done business with them? Are they authentic? Are they real? Are they genuine? Yeah, because we need to know that from our network. That is what networking is. It's not just I bump into Paul. How are you doing, Paul? And Paul seems great. It's now I'm meeting Paul. Who does Paul know? I had a chat with your mate the other day. Yeah. I won't mention their name out of respect for them. But they've come in with great respect for me. And they know who I am before I even show up. And as long as what I've shown Paul and interacted with Paul is real, and then Paul knows other people I know he does. And I know that everyone he's spoken to, and this is where this is sharing is caring if it's authentic and real. Yeah. Every single person you've spoken to or interacted about me will always give me a high score. Yes. They might say, oh, he's very real, but they'll also say that he gets results. Now, at some point, you're going to get somebody go, I don't like him. Yeah, which is fine. That's a bit like saying, I don't like pepperoni pizza. So you don't think he's any good at what he does? Oh, yeah, I think he's good at what he does. I just don't like him. I don't like the way he goes about it. That's fine. Yeah. I haven't learned to communicate to people like that yet, let's say. Or they haven't heard to hear me. Whichever way. It could be a mixture of both. But if you get somebody that says, oh, don't trust Lee Tunnyware, yeah, and you got like, and I would know you know a lot of people that know me, the alarm bell wouldn't ring for me. The alarm bell would ring for them. And that's the thing. If we meet people that keep talking bad about other people,
yeah,
are they talking bad about other people or are they expressing themselves?
Wow. That's so powerful. Now, and that takes me back to also something you said that I just made a note of here. Is remember now, viewers, we said, you have to share in life to have a share of life. But the realization here is there are so many shapes to what sharing is. And then also what you mentioned there is, and I wrote down the words empty sharing, which means that we can overshare in life for the need to be liked, the need to, not just be liked, but to make a sale, desperation, where it's not a sharing at all then, it's actually giving up who we are because of our lack of, I'm going to say lack of confidence, lack of self-love, these things.
You know, when we check out those things like that through our checkout, and we decide, it's even worse, Paul, when we decide to do it. You think, oh, it's right, well, I need to get the deal over the line. I'll knock 50% off. And ka-ching, there you go. And if I'm knocking 50% off, I'm over delivering by 50%.
Wow, yeah.
And then when Paul goes for the upgrade or goes for the next product, he ain't got the value of me. Everything I do is 50% under. Now, if Paul has outpriced himself by 50%, and he gives me a 50% discount, then I'm paying the right price. I'm paying the market price. So there's so many different levels to it. But how do you take the noise away so it's a benefit rather than a conversation? Let's say. So in this timeline, because reflection, what's it for? It's not just is my hair look okay? It's internal reflection. And I said this in a few podcasts. Audits are very powerful, see, because it's a quick summary audit. If somebody keeps triggering me, is it them or is it me or is it both? So if I upset Ros, yeah, and I can look through my day in reflection, if I sort of say something to Ros and she bites, which has happened to me, yeah. On the outside now, I've got to be I've got to be my expression and my tonality, because that's my outside. My tonality is how I express my inside.
Yeah.
So if I've said something and Ros gets triggered, and bear in mind, we've been together like 30, almost 31 years, so I don't trigger Ros much, yeah, and she doesn't trigger me. But did we? Yeah. And there'll be sometimes I think, oh, what did I say? And this is a person I know very well. So on the outside, I wouldn't be showing that, because it would be like, I think anything I show now it's like fuel to the fire. So now I'm like, right, yeah. And sometimes it could be around the other way, yeah. And I remember once we were in our kitchen, and Ros had a tone with me, and I was thinking, nowadays I'm very direct, so I ask, yeah. Now I could hear by Ros's tone, like I deserve to go to bed without me dinner, no TV, and stay there to the morning. I could hear that, and I was thinking, well, what did I do to? Now she hasn't sent me to bed, but inside I feel like I should be in my bedroom. No TV, no tablets, no phones, no nothing. You'll stay there until your dad comes home, yeah, and you ain't having no dinner. That's how I was feeling, and I was thinking, well, is this a trigger, or is this real? So I said to Ros, you don't seem very pleased with me, darling. I'm not. Right. What did I do? Yeah, what did I do? So it's in real time, I know I haven't done anything, yeah. So I've scanned something on the self-checkout or on Ros's checkout, maybe an hour beforehand, last week, a month, a year ago, and she's just trigged it now. A bit like Poppy was going shopping with Ros the other day, and Poppy dropped something in Ros's basket. Ros got to the checkout, she went, who put that there? Poppy went, she said, you can put it back. Poppy went, like Poppy's 13. But Mum, she said, there's no buts. Ask. And let me make the decision. Don't try and slip it in under the radar, which is how a lot of people try to be. So I said to Ros, what did I do? She said, it's not what you did. Okay. What did I say? No, you said nothing. Okay. What didn't I do? So there's nothing you haven't done. I said, oh, fair enough. What didn't I say? There was nothing. Nothing you said or done, okay? And nothing I haven't said or done. She went, no. I said, fair enough. I cannot be held accountable for what you imagine about me. That's all you, love. So I said, when you work out why you want to, like, in a sense, express and share without caring, as if I've done something wrong, I said, let me know. I said, I'm fine with that. I said, but there's nothing in me that disrespects you. There's only stuff in me that loves you. So the point is, sometimes sharing is caring. In that case, I don't know whether I handled it right. It worked out well for me, but I'm very real, yeah. And so that not everybody likes that. So sharing is caring. Me, I'm going to share my real self, even if it gets me into trouble. And I've got the opportunity to learn or rephrase at a later stage, or I can say, "Oh, no, you picked me up wrong. I meant that, but I meant like." And I've said it before. I mean what I say. I'm never mean with what I say. So when I mean what I say and somebody gets triggered by it, it might be because I'm too real. But I can assure there's never any disrespect. I will hold disrespect to a line.
Yeah.
When disrespect shows up, I will say, "Oh, no, I don't do that." "What do you mean you don't do it?" "I don't do that." And I'm very real. So when it comes back to sharing is caring, is if we're not our authentic self, how do we know what to share and what to keep? Because some people you can't share with. You can't even give them a syllable. And that's not a trigger. I can stand, I feel, in any arena. And my heartbeat won't change. And it's not an arrogance. It's from experience or different experiences in life that I worked out at a very early age that if my heart rate goes up, I'm in fear. If I'm in fear, I've separated a part of me. My biology now is controlling me, which means I can't think.
Yeah.
And if my biology is controlling me, I've already given up my autonomy and my control to my attacker or somebody who's going against me. So the first thing I have to do is stay present and not allow what's happening to control me. So it's a bit like a 15-second delay on a live broadcast.
Wow.
Yeah, it's having that space. See, space doesn't necessarily mean distance.
Yeah.
Space is if somebody throws that something at you, if it's thrown in your basket, you should be able to go, "I didn't put that in that basket. Who put that in?" So when you get these little triggers, before you go scanning it and making it part of yours and put it in your shopping basket, you go, "Oh, no, I ain't put that in my basket. Whose is this?" So that 15-second delay, if somebody throws something in your basket, you go, "Yeah, yeah." Now you might be able to ask them, because if you ask them on the outside, but on the inside, you should be self-scanning, shouldn't be on the conveyor belt of life.
Wow.
Yeah, you shouldn't be having your subconscious check it all out for you, because then you don't know what's in your baskets, what's in your shopping bags, and you're walking around for the bag of your life and you think, "How to get in here? Who put that in?" Yeah. So with me, I prefer it's self-service checkout. Yeah. I'm checking, and like now, if I'm with somebody like Paul, it goes on the conveyor belt because I know who Paul is.
Yeah.
So with Paul, we throw what you like on, mate. I ain't worried. We get to that. We get to that. What about this time? We get to that again. Yeah. Because I know Paul's sharing with me, and not at the end, then the checkout, that'd be 1,565,000. And wait, I thought we were having a chat. And I'm sure you've had those conversations.
Many.
Right? So when you know somebody, so in reflection or an audit, is you do an audit of your contacts, as in the people you have contact and connection with, because you've got to have contact and connection with somebody to share in the first place. Now, it's virtually, as in email, WhatsApp, whatever, phone conversation. How much of you is in the conversation? Is it just text? Is it just letters? Is it just sound? If it's a real world meeting, there's a lot more involved. There's a lot more of them. So if you're having interactions with people and you don't know who they are, then you might have to be a bit more aware to find the barcode before you run it through the checkout. If you've got a conveyor belt of stuff like this, like Paul, "Oh, it's Paul, right, mate, how you doing? Yeah, just need to cover this for you, Lee." That's right. I shouldn't have my card up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, COVID's changed things slightly because some people were very well connected and very well secure in their relationships. And then what's happened is they've gone from real world meetings to virtual meetings. And I don't mean that as in networking. Bear in mind, networking's gone that way as well. I run a lot of those types of events.
Mm-hmm.
But when we had a real connection with somebody, might have met with them once a week, once a month, whatever, and then that connection has gone to, we might be having a chat on the phone because of, we just do things differently now since COVID, let's say. That person mightn't have the same physical autonomy in your relationship because that other data's gone. So now, because you're not having the handshake or the hug or whatever, they may have put you in a different category in their life, not consciously, but unconsciously, which means now your value has changed. So if you're noticing differences in people, doesn't mean they weren't authentic. It might be just they're processing on a different data stream now.
I see, Ali. I
You get what
see
I'm
that.
saying?
Yeah.
So, and if that's happening, and they might be aware of it. So they're not. It's not they're a bad person or a toxic person. They're just processing differently, and because they're processing differently, if they think through things and then check in with their emotions. I mean, when we talk about values and principles, what are values and principles? What part of us is our values and principles? So if we're only conversing, like auditorily speaking, which is about 17% of our processing systems is auditory, then we've got a fair chunk, 83% of us, not involved in the conversation, which means if our values or our principles are in that 83%, then when I speak, I can say whatever I want because I've got no accountability to me.
Yeah.
And how do you reference something that's been said? So some people are only accountable when it can be seen or when others are aware. Where if we're autonomous, what we say, we mean, and what we mean, we say. Which means if I say something, I should be held accountable for it for the rest of my life.
And so many people don't fall in that life rule. You know,
some people only fall in the one that if they're seen, it's real. If nobody knows about it, it never happened.
Yeah. Wow. And we are coming to the end here, Lee. We've gone a little bit over again, and you know, it's been fantastic, this sharing life to have a share of life. And let's do this, listeners. You know, please subscribe, like, leave comments, because we're always there. You will find Lee Tunnyware all over LinkedIn. Actually, you'll find him everywhere. You will. He certainly is a A-list celebrity in the business world, even though he won't tell you that because he's very modest and he's on mute. But here's where we are.
All you have to do, though, just today, rather than putting it all on the conveyor belt, take 5 items, 3 items, 2 items, and start just scanning 1 or 2, 3 items on your own self-service checkout. Look for the barcode and process it. And put the rest on the conveyor belt. So start a new habit today of just being more aware and self-checkout.
Wow.
Yeah. And you'll find that you'll start to see the world a bit differently. Obviously in a more beneficial way.
It's been such a wonderful deep dive. And let's leave our viewers with this also. You know, here's the thing. Never accept mate rates from a mate in business because you're no longer supporting his business. Now, think about that. Think about that, viewers. You know, as your mate comes in and says, well, is there a mate rate? There should never be. You should always pay full fee to your mate to support the business. Absolutely. Lee, thank you so much. It's been a wonderful series again. And of course, we will catch you this time next week on the wonderful Extreme Business Set Mind podcast series with the wonderful Lee Tunnyware and me sharing in the background here. Happy days. See you this time next week.